When I did my trailer reaction for The Creator at the end of July, I got a few things slightly wrong about the movie. To be fair to myself, I was basing my reaction solely on what the trailer showed me. There had not been a lot of press for the movie to that point, and I knew nothing of it prior to seeing the trailer. Let me go through a few things I got wrong before I go into the spoiler review for the film itself. First, I need to apologize to Madeline Yuna Voiles, the little girl who played Alfie. She was the human-looking robot in the trailer that John David Washington's character was traveling with throughout the clips. I thought she was a boy in the trailer. An understandable mistake given the aesthetic they went with for her. I will get to the rest of my apology in a minute, which will explain this mea culpa. The second thing I got wrong was the general story and John David Washington's role in it. He was less a special forces soldier and more a special intelligence operative. His story in the movie starts off with him undercover. He is later conned and dragooned into the operation to go get the kid. And lastly, the kid is not the creator. She winds up being the weapon the creator made to end the war. The creator starts off with exposition. We see the explanation of how the world went to shit with a war between the anti-AI Western countries and the pro-AI nations of East and South Asia. We mostly see it as a West versus East Asia throughout the trailer, but there are parts of the movie where it is plain that at the very least, India is sympathetic to the pro-AI regions since they wind up getting hit by the West. AI is blamed for nuking Los Angeles, and the West declares war on AI. It sounds like the start of a Terminator origin story, but alas, it is not nearly that cool. Don't get me wrong, the movie is not bad. However, it did have issues that I will get into in a few minutes. After the exposition dump, we see John David Washington in bed with a fairly pregnant Gemma Chan as they kid with each other about the baby. We also see Special Forces troops coming ashore nearby, and I will get back to them after my synopsis. Washington's character, Joshua Taylor, who has a bionic arm and leg, and Gemma Chan's character, Maya Fey Taylor, hear the noise and he goes to see what it is. He and the androids downstairs realize troops are coming and they go to get the boats ready to flee, while Joshua and the main android, Harun, fight the soldiers that come into the house. He grabs a soldier's radio while the android goes to hold off the rest of them. He tries to get headquarters to call off the raid because he is undercover. Maya is on the stairs behind him when he says this and points a gun at him. The main android comes in and drags her away to the boats, Joshua tearing out after them. Nomad, a giant space station that can launch orbital strikes for the Western forces, fires a few missiles at the fleeing boats, and Joshua is caught in the blast wave. Then we skip ahead in time where we see Joshua's life in recovery. The blast caused memory loss, and so he was sidelined. He is now on a cleanup team in the radiation zone of Los Angeles. He's approached by the brass in command of Nomad to guide an operation to the area he lived in with Maya. They think the lab where the weapon the creator, also known as Nirmata, has built is nearby. Nirmata is worshipped by the androids as their creator, a sort of deity. He initially tells them no, but they show him footage of Maya that they claim is recent. She is healthy and still wearing the ring he gave her when they were together, so he accepts. Needless to say, the mission goes pear-shaped. Most of the troops either killed or captured. Joshua is neither and escapes with the little girl he finds in the lab, despite orders to kill her. Her designation is Alpha O, but he calls her Alfie. One of the captured soldiers and the commander, played by Allison Janney, who is also captured, overpower their guards and go off in pursuit of Joshua and the kid. The entire region is looking for the child and her quote-unquote captor as they travel towards where he thinks Maya is. Along the way, the two bond, overcoming Joshua's ingrown dislike and disdain of robots and AI. Joshua goes to find a friend in the provincial capital, hoping he still has a way to track the tracer he put in the ring he gave to Maya. The Asian forces assault the building and wind up killing his friend, but not before he tells Joshua that the reason they attacked his place with Maya was because they discovered that she was Nirmata. He and Alfie are captured by the Asian forces led by Harun and taken to a boat where they will go to Harun's village. The village is near an Asian AI forces base. While captured, Harun tells Joshua that they wanted the weapon that is Alfie to end the war. If they end the war, nothing happens for the West. Nothing will change. However, if the West wins, Asia will be wiped out. All they want is to live in peace. Shortly thereafter, Joshua escapes by jumping off the boat. He then grabs hold of ropes trailing down from the boat's prow as they proceed onto the village. The village is attacked by Western forces shortly after they arrive. In the attack, Alfie is wounded by one of the two survivors of the original mission. Joshua rescues her from the bridge she is on, and it is destroyed, leaving the Western forces on the wrong side of the river. Harun takes the two of them to go see Nirmata. Once there, they fix the kid, and Joshua learns that Maya has been in a coma since the attack that Joshua thought killed her. There is no hope for her, but the androids cannot harm Nirmata, meaning they can't take her off the life support she is on. He does it for them and takes a scan of her brain before the temple complex is attacked by Western troops. He and Alfie are captured and separated. The two survivors of the original mission are killed by Harun in the attack, meaning there is nobody left who knows what happened during the course of the past several days. They are taken to Los Angeles and he is forced to kill Alfie with an EMP gun. Before he does so, he murmurs something in her ear. She is then taken to be destroyed. Joshua asks to go along because she meant something to him, and the commander allows it. On the drive over, he kills the guard and the driver, flipping the van they are in and escaping with an only powered-down Alfie. They escape on a shuttle bound for the moon. The military orders all flights to turn back, but Alfie takes over their shuttle and lands it on board Nomad, the station she was made to destroy. The troops on the station board the shuttle after evacuating it, looking for Joshua and Alfie, but he has donned a spacesuit and voids the air into space, taking the troops with it. He then gives the scan of Maya's brain to Alfie and tells her to head to the control room because the commander of Nomad is about to launch a strike on all of the AI bases they located during the attacks made to try to catch Alfie. Joshua goes EVA and climbs the outside of the station until he gets to one of the missiles. He puts a mine on it while Alfie shuts down the station. However, she does not do it in time to prevent all of the strikes. On her way out of the control room, she stops off at the station's AI lab and finds an android body of Maya. She drags her out but only gets as far as the agricultural domes before she has to give up. She implants the scan and leaves. When she finds Joshua, he puts her into an escape pod. Before he can join her, the commander has unleashed a tentacled robot to attack her. During the attack, Joshua uses the door of the escape pod to cut the tentacles that have caught Alfie. That jams the door, however. He launches the pod as both watch each other with tears streaming from their eyes. Unable to stop the explosion or escape it, Joshua goes to the agricultural dome to await his death with the station and finds the activated android of Maya. They kiss and the mine explodes, tearing the station in two and sending it crashing to Earth. The rest of the missiles fail to explode on impact and Alfie's pod parachutes to the ground. The movie ends with the station crashing and the Asian people and androids dancing with joy. The Creator was a complicated movie to watch, especially if you have any knowledge of military history and the attending disciplines of strategy and tactics. Very early on in the movie, I had to decide to turn that part of my brain off, or the movie would not work for me. The main thing wrong with it is the technological advantage Nomad would give a military. Being able to not only strike targets from orbit, but also be able, as they show Nomad doing in the movie, to come down into the atmosphere to aid military strikes with close air support would be a game changer. However, it would also be vulnerable to missile strikes from the planet or from the air, especially when it was in the atmosphere, as is shown on multiple occasions in the film. And that was just what occurred to me after the opening sequence with Joshua and Maya. Then we have the idea that AI, once sentient, would be contained to Eastern and Southern Asia. As the third Terminator movie showed, once AI becomes sentient and views mankind as an enemy, it would be all over the planet. It could spread through the worldwide computer networks faster than we could stop it, meaning we would be fighting for our survival as a species before we even knew we were screwed. And the Western forces were still heavily computer dependent. Pretty much the only way to prevent AI from decimating your military capability would be to rip out all of your internet capability. That means no more GPS, satellite imaging, global communication aside from CB radio, or data stored anywhere other than on air-gapped computers with no attached networks. AI would be able to infiltrate anything connected to the web or with a modem. None of that is addressed in this movie. In fact, it is all studiously ignored. Then we get to the story elements that did not work. First and foremost was the idea that military units could fly all over an Asia that is surviving going toe-to-toe with the Western forces willy-nilly. That is not how this works. All we see is Osprey-like vehicles flitting about on these missions with zero anti-aircraft batteries at any point in this movie, not even shorelines or near cities. An AI-friendly area would be lined with such weapons to prevent the very types of attacks shown. If you have seen the Top Gun Maverick movie, you know what I'm talking about. Though instead of the SAM sites being lined up along the ridge of the valley on the way to the target, they would be lined up along the shore with a much better sightline than those on the ridges. There would be no way to sneak into Asia on Ospreys. They would be shot down long before they neared land. Even if they were launched from Nomad, they would be even easier pickings for SAMs as they traveled through the atmosphere. The android and fully robotic soldiers of the Asian forces were also a little bit weak in design. AI should be able to design much better soldier bots than we were shown in the movie. I'm not looking for Terminators, but their armor and fighting capabilities should have been much better than they were. Joshua falling for the leaked footage of Maya that the commanders used to get him on board with the mission should have been transparently fake to him. He was far too gullible to their bait, especially since he was an undercover operative. He should have known better. Alfie's ability to control technology is explained as weak, but able to grow as she grows. However, her range was shown to be fair ways out from her body, and its quote-unquote control was shockingly limited, when the plot needed it to be. An AI should be able to take control of a system, rewrite the control codes to do what it wants, and be able to focus on something else while the code takes care of whatever it was they wanted. However, on more than one occasion, Alfie lost control of the tech she was manipulating while her focus was broken, like she had ADD or something. And then a final commentary about the story. The ending, with Joshua and the Maya android meeting in the agricultural dome of Nomad, is ambiguous. The way Nomad came down makes it entirely possible that one or both survived. At least Maya, an android, probably survived. The station came down in 2 large pieces, and the velocity shown was not extraordinary on impact. Much of the superstructure of the station's halves was intact. Joshua would definitely be injured if he was not tethered before impact, but it would have been survivable, which makes me wonder if the studio and or the director left it open for possible sequels should the movie do well. Other than those problems with the writing, the overall story was engaging. It asked serious questions about AI and how we should approach it. What does war do to humanity? How should humanity treat sentient beings who are not biological? Would we know or care if they achieved sentience? This was a story that wanted to open minds about questions humanity really has not tackled in a serious manner outside of science fiction media and ethics classes. The cinematography was stunning, as the trailer well showed. The locations were gorgeous and the sets absolutely fantastic, especially on a movie with a budget of only $80 million. Disney and Warner Brothers should see this movie and immediately want an audit of every movie they have produced in the last decade to find out where all of their cash went. It certainly has not been going up on the screen. The effects were also extremely well done. Where CGI was used, it was top notch. Again, it made you wonder what the hell DC and Marvel have done to the VXF shops to piss them off so bad as to result in the trash they have been putting out in theaters the last few years. It was worlds away from movies like The Flash, Ant-Man Quantumania, Doctor Strange WandaVision 2, or The Justice League. The robots looked real. The androids looked like humans merged with real tech. The explosions were real looking where they were obviously not. Nomad and the ships looked real. It was all done very well and merged seamlessly with the backgrounds it was put in. The costumes were also great. They looked lived in and appropriate to their region. The uniforms were excellent, and the hazmat and spacesuits looked great. The tech and the weapons fit the setting and the time. Some looked like antique AK-47s modified for a future world, and some looked like top-of-the-line future gear. The tanks were suitably clunky and massive, but also made me wonder how the hell they got a 4-story tall armored vehicle all the way to Asia at the exact right time and place they needed them. And all of the computer and android tech looked impressively realistic. The performances were exceptional, starting with Madeline Yuna Voiles, the 9-year-old actress that plays Alfie. I could not believe that this movie was her first credited performance on IMDb. Given the emotion and the strength of her performance, it was unreal. She and John David Washington had good chemistry, and Washington's performance was as good. He pulled off the war-weary and battered survivor as well as he pulled off the capable soldier and the valiant protector. Both of them simply catch you up in the story despite the script's deficiencies. Gemma Chan is hardly in the movie, and when she is much like her performance in The Eternals and various other things I've seen her in. If she were not one of the main characters, she would be forgettable. Her performance does not take away from the story, but neither does it add anything. There are better actresses who could have played the part and made it memorable. Ken Watanabe was his usual capable self in transforming Harun into the wise old hand. He is and has always been a steadying influence on a film, bringing a quiet competence to his performances. Unlike Gemma Chan, you notice him, but not to the point of being distracted from concentrating on the two main protagonists and their antagonist. Allison Janney was rock solid as that antagonist. She was heartless and coldly efficient in her performance as the colonel in command of the mission. She harbors a grudge against AI and the androids after losing both sons to the war, and it shows. She was a much more vibrant villain than the overall commander, General Andrews, who was a stereotypical warmongering general, if a little less emotional than those types are usually played. Ralph Ineson was fine in that role since he got limited screen time. The minor characters were all either good as well, or they were part of the scenery, as they should be in a movie like this. This was a sci-fi flick that had heart and was visually stunning, even if it was flawed. Gareth Edwards probably should have gotten a better writer to co-write the screenplay with him. Chris Weitz is responsible for such atrocities as The Nutty Professor 2, the Twilight sequel New Moon, and the 2022 Disney debacle of a live-action remake of Pinocchio. He is also the writer of such confused disappointments like The Golden Compass in 2007 and the promising but ultimately predictable The Mountain Between Us. A better science fiction writer, one who understands military and sci-fi on an intellectual level in his writing, could have straightened out the problems with this script, or at least not made so many mistakes with it. Overall, I would give this movie a B- for those mistakes. It was a beautiful movie with a story worth watching. It was a little over 2 hours long, and it did not feel like it. It was paced well, though there were editing choices I would not have made, but that ultimately worked out. And the performances make you want to ignore the issues and just enjoy the eye candy being presented. After 2 weekends in theaters, the creator has made $61.8 million worldwide. As of time of recording, it has yet to open in Japan, South Korea, or China. To break even, it likely has to hit somewhere in the region of $240 million. I am not sure the creator has the legs to hit that, or even close on the trajectory it's on right now. Which is a shame because this film and the 2 Dune adaptations should be telling the big Hollywood studios that there is something very, very wrong with the way they are making movies. Both Gareth Edwards and Denis Villeneuve have managed to make stunning movies with good casts without pumping $200 to $300 million into them and another $150 into marketing. Such insane spending is unsustainable and makes it more likely the film will not only flop, but flop massively. That is all I have for this video. The Continental Part 2 review will be coming. It just took longer than I anticipated, and this one came up. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment down below. I appreciate it all. Until next time. Tschüss.